Jeff, I'll start with you and the latest coming out of the White House. Now that the Atlantic has released the full chat, has that changed the administration's response to all of this in any way, shape, or form?
Well, I think what it changed in part is that it generated a huge and coordinated response by the White House this morning to discredit Jeff Goldberg and the Atlantic. You saw that both in the clip that you just played from Caroline Leavitt, but also in the post that they made on the social media platform X together, or at least I shouldn't say together. I should mean coordinated at roughly the same on roughly the same level anyway, about him, about the magazine, and about the information that he had. Picking apart whether or not it was about war, or whether it was about an attack, and using that to suggest that it wasn't classified. That was a message that they all agreed on, even despite the facts, and those facts are clear and they were out there. And it was also something that was pretty hard for members of the panel, the congressional panel that you played as well, to believe. So that's a long way of saying to your question, yes, the response has changed, but no, the facts haven't, and that's put the White House in a very uncomfortable position.
Colonel, let's set the record straight. You were a person in the military. How do you classify that information? Is it sensitive? Is it secret? Is it just generic information that anyone could have access to? Because there's two parts to this: the nature of the information, and then the fact that it was shared on a commercial app that most people would think is encrypted, or it is encrypted, but doesn't necessarily mean it's not impenetrable to foreign adversaries or people certainly with the capabilities like, let's say, China and other countries.
Correct. Any information can be arbitrarily and subjectively classified, secret, confidential, top secret, and so on. It is sensitive. It is by nature sensitive information. How it's classified is irrelevant. Sensitive information, whether it's classified or not, should not be released. I remember when I was in Vietnam, our operations plan was leaked to the enemy, and my unit walked into an enormous ambush, and we very nearly got annihilated. It wasn't classified, wasn't stamped secret, top secret, eyes only, no foreign national. It was just sensitive information, and anybody involved in the national security apparatus ought to know what's sensitive and what isn't sensitive.
So when you look at the information that was included in that, the details of the military planes, the types of drones, we now, as we heard from Representative Crow earlier in Congress, the Yemenis have the ability, they certainly have the surface-to-air missile capability to attack some of our aircraft. So that material, no, undoubtedly, if it had reached or landed in the hands of the Yemenis, could have adversely affected those operations.
Well, there are two things about it. First of all, they had enough time to get out of the area and make all that targeting completely useless. And second, they could have put Americans at risk because they knew when you have the actual time of the launch, when you have the time on target, which was in this information, it's extremely dangerous for the Americans.
Kevin, Trump's team says these details are unclassified and is trying to get into semantics, as you heard there from the defense secretary, about whether they were war plans or attack plans. How much does that matter, especially now that we can read exactly what was in these messages with incredible level of specificity?
It doesn't matter, but I feel like we're all kind of staring at the trees in the forest because the only thing that matters is Trump's opinion if he's not going to do anything about it, or Congress if they're not going to do anything about it, or the judiciary if they're not going to do anything about it. We can debate the semantics of is it classified or unclassified, or war plans or attack plans, and it doesn't matter if no one is going to be held accountable anyway. I will say to your question, and I put out a tweet thread about this earlier, I've been an editor for many years. For 10 years, I ran a newsroom, and I'm fascinated by this hang-up we have about war plans or not, because I always would tell my reporters, look, if you get a piece of information, it doesn't matter if it's actually a book that's stapled, and it's got a nice cover sheet, and the cover sheet says war plan. What you have is the war plan. Use your English and call it like it is. The government does not get to tell reporters how to characterize the information that the reporter has in their notebook. And they never have, they never should. So I don't care what the White House press secretary how she tries to spin this as. It's a war plan. It's a attack plan, whatever it might be. I wish they wouldn't have changed the headline because they just opened themselves up to that criticism. And frankly, it doesn't matter. What matters is what the colonel was saying. This is 100% dangerous. This is 100% obvious. It's ridiculous. We got to keep talking about the weeds, and this has gone on for the days that it has, and it's going to continue to go on before someone is held accountable. But I don't think it's going to come from Trump or the White House. It should be coming from the Senate Armed Services Committee. It should be coming from the FBI, the Justice Department, or from inside the Pentagon. Or in any normal time, these leaders who clearly violated their oaths and put people at risk would be doing us all a favor and resigning.
Okay, so you brought up, just to follow up on that really quickly, Kevin, you brought up the issue of accountability. It's not going to come from the Department of Justice with Pam Bondi. It's not going to come from the FBI with Kash Patel. We know where their loyalties certainly lie at this moment of the administration. It's not going to come from the House of Representatives, where Mike Johnson has made clear what he thinks of this situation. So the idea of real serious accountability in this current makeup of our government seems to be an illusion right now. Do you see anyone out there who's actually pressing this and say, hey, we need to actually have serious accountability? Even the inspectors general at the Department of Defense. Yeah.
It's a good question. Look, my eyes are squarely on Senator Roger Wicker. He's the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee. He has said that he and Senator Reid, the former chairman, the minority leader from Rhode Island, will do their own investigation into this, and frankly, they should. The Senate Armed Services Committee is supposed to be the keeper of this flame, and I guarantee you that the ghost of every chairman prior is looking down right now on Senator Wicker and waiting to see what he's going to do. Senator Wicker is a serious man when he wants to be. He's a politician when he needs to be, and this is one of those moments where he's going to have to decide. Does he serve the country and his own constituents and his own career better by keeping in the good graces of this administration and having power and having sway, or does he make a stand that might jeopardize that instead? The same can be said for Mike Waltz. I know lots of members think that Mike Waltz and Rubio are supposed to be the guardrails against the others, the real MAGAites like Hegseth. Yeah. But we've heard what Waltz has said. He's attacking journalism. He's towing the line. They're not apologizing for anything. They've had to be forced to admit every single aspect of this case. So really, it's guys like Wicker. It's a few others in the House. It's a very, very small band with a very small, set of numbers who behind the scenes can maybe steer us in some other way. But mostly what we're hearing from the GOP members is this kind of straddling the line position of, well, I don't like what's happened, but I'm comfortable hearing that it's not going to happen again. Guess what? When you break the law, you don't get to say that. Nobody gets to go to court and say, I won't do it again, and that's enough.
Well, we'll see if they actually stand up and meet the moment. Jeff, one of the things that we have heard and seen is Donald Trump basically absolve himself from this situation. He has said that he himself doesn't remember what he was doing during all these conversations about airstrikes. And that in of itself raises questions as to what degree he is aware of these types of operations. Does he just know the general abstracts? Hey, we're going to target Yemen on Saturday. Or would he have a granular level of detail and want to know about this conversation as it unfolded?
Good question. I mean, I think it's also important to note that he suggested he wasn't aware at all of the report of this crisis when he was first asked about it by a reporter right after the news broke. And it's hard to imagine that the president hadn't been briefed on that right away. So, and of course, he certainly became briefed on it later. One of the president's ways of deflecting attention from stories that he doesn't like is just to deny. And so it's certainly possible, it's certainly plausible, given his history of using that as a tactic, that's what he's using in this case too. But it's, as Kevin was saying, and as we've been discussing on this whole panel tonight, there are times when you just can't deny what you see, what everyone can see right in front of their own eyes. So yeah, I don't know the answer about to where he was when those decisions were being made, but I think it's hard to believe or to accept that it's plausible that he wasn't in the loop on what was going on with that attack, just as it was implausible to believe that he wasn't aware that this story on Signal had broken about the communications about the attack between his top national security officials and advisors.